take you to the broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here's Reverend Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Blackwell. Let me say Hotep Habarigani to my Africana Studies colleagues, contemporaries, friends, and seekers after the truth all. And let me hasten on to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night, and never ever goodbye. Because I've always found goodbyes traumatizing, especially after I lost my own beloved wife, Carrie, back in 2012. I trust that will not be a reflection on my faith. If it is, I thank God will help me with my grieving. And you grieve your way, and I shall grieve mine. Welcome. This broadcast that you are watching is entitled It's Time. It's the social justice outreach, and we try not to go off message and get off into the preachy because we need to concentrate on what is affecting us. The focus of this short broadcast is to put us on guard or in mind of how God is working things out at this present and evil time. Let me put it that way. Let me hasten on and say, my name is the Reverend Nathaniel Wayne Martin, and I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles, and we are located, write it down, at 8916 South Main Street. That's 8916 South Main Street. The New Life Institutional Baptist Church. Zip code 9003. All right. And whenever you're in the area and God leads you in that direction, please feel free to come and let the ushers know that you heard about us on the radio. And we will be so thrilled to see some of our fans and listeners in the place. Okay? All right. Well, things are occurring and happening. So many people tried to send me felicitations for the 4th of July. I had to remind them that we didn't get free until the 19th of June. It wasn't on the 4th of July. We were impressed into bondage as we had been since 1619, and that bondage was solidified when the colonists won their freedom from the British, and so now they were free to have slavery, which they did proceeded to continue. And of course the 13 colonists were wise enough and smooth enough and subtle enough to move their operations from the north, even though New York itself was a slave state and continued to be a slave state, even wanting to secede from the Union during the Civil War. But everything moved south and to the Carolinas and the Virginias and all of that historic area down there, Louisiana, Alabama, Arkansas, and don't leave out Texas, because Texas was a slave state, still is a slave state if you ask me, even though I grew up there. Yes, I grew up there in segregation. And so we more or less concentrate on the reality, the truth of the matter, rather than getting caught up in fireworks and firecrackers and all of that regalia, because we realize the awful truth. This is what wokeness is all about. Recognizing who you are in relation to who you are dealing with or who you are confronted with. Just because you're in a room full of white folks don't mean you're white. And it don't mean that white folks accept you either. Well, that's a statement for another time. President Trump signed what he calls the Big Beautiful Bill. The rest of us call the Big Beautiful BS Bill, and other vituperative words that by which it is described, expletives, multiply, Dr. Reverend Laree Daniels. She's a doctor too, attorney at law. But that's what they call it, the big, beautiful BITCH bill. And I think that's more apropos because it cuts off 17 million people from Medicare and over so many millions that we didn't calculate off of SNAP. And of course, SNAP is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. That's what it's called. And it helps people who are destitute or in poverty to get food stamps, and so they can provide nutrition for their families every month. That's whether your family is growing or is grown. You can, if you are old, you can get SNAP, even though the state where you are will fight you about it, but you are still eligible, and you should take advantage of every program that can help you keep your head above water. Because going to sleep hungry in the richest country in the world is rather illogical and nonsensical. Now, I decided to go through portions of the late Frederick Douglass' great speech that he gave in Rochester, New York on July 5th, 1852 at the hall there in Rochester. As I recall, that was the same hall in which he was in when they were waiting for the Emancipation Proclamation to be announced, that it had been signed as it was by President Abraham Lincoln. Just because the nation, as I say again, is rejoicing in July 4th, 1776, we did not, like I said, have anything to rejoice in July 4th, 1776, because I'm talking about black people and freedmen were in slavery, were in bondage. And Frederick Douglass was asked to give a speech, and these are some of the highlights of that speech, which he gave. What to the slave is the 4th of July. And some of us can say, what to the black man is the 4th of July. All right, he says, fellow citizens, pardon me, allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I or those I represent to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I therefore called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? It goes on and says, but such is not the case, such is not the state of the case. I say it with a sad sense of the disparity between us. I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. And I put a pin there because sometimes we get ourselves confused with the status quo. And you must remember, everything that the status quo have is not enjoyed by the rest of us. We don't receive those benefits. I continue. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice. I must mourn. To drag a man in fetters into the gold-illuminated temple of liberty and call upon him to join you in joyous anthems were inhumane mockery and sacrilegious irony. Do you mean, citizen, to mock me by asking me to speak today? If so, there is a parallel to your conduct. And let me warn you that it is dangerous to copy the example of a nation whose crimes, lowering up to heaven, were thrown down by the breath of the Almighty, burying that nation in irrecoverable ruin. I can today take up the plaintive lament of a peeled and woe-smitten people. Fellow citizens, above your national tumultuous joy, I hear the mournful wail of millions, whose chains, heavy and grievous yesterday, are today rendered more intolerable by the jubilee shouts that reach them. If I do forget, if I do not faithfully remember those bleeding children of sorrow this day, may my right hand forget her cunning, and may my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. To forget them, to pass lightly over their wrongs, and to claim in and to chime in with the popular theme would be treason, most scandalous and shocking, and would make me a reproach before God and the world. My subject, then, fellow citizens, is American slavery. I shall see this day and its popular characteristics from the slave's point of view, standing there, identified with the American bondman, making his wrongs mine. I do not hesitate to declare with all my soul and that the character and conduct of this nation never looked blacker to me than on the 4th of July. Whether we turn to the declarations of the past or to the professions of the future, of the present, the conduct of this nation seems equally hideous and revolting. America is false to the past, false to the present, and solemnly binds herself to be false to the future. Standing with God and the crushed and bleeding slave on this occasion, I will, in the name of humanity, which is outraged, in the name of liberty, which is fettered, in the name of the Constitution and the Bible, which are disregarded and trampled upon, dare to call in question and to denounce with all the emphasis I can command everything that serves to perpetuate slavery, the great sin and shame of America. I will not equivocate. I will not excuse. I will use the severest language I can command, and yet not one word shall escape me that any man whose judgment is not blinded by prejudice or who is not at heart a slaveholder shall not confess to be right and just. And my brothers and my sisters, I hate to say it, but you can see in what Frederick Douglass was describing there shades of what we are seeing here now with the passage of this a big beautiful bill, as it is called, which Donald Trump, the president, is trumpeting, and which Mike Johnson, who is the spineless leader of the House of Representatives and the spineless leader of the Senate, are chortling about as though it was some great and good and mighty thing. And it is unconstitutional, but they have passed it. It goes against the Bible, but they have passed it. It is unchristian, as I call Christianity, but they have passed it. And these type of things ought not so to be. And I fought Hakeem Jeffries for not taking up that day he spent up there running his mouth, to not seeking to promote and to be a proponent of Medicare for all. Because if everybody's being kicked out of Medicare and Medicaid, and the premiums for assisted living is like $6,000 a month copay, then it would be reasonable and sensible and logical for everybody to be covered from cradle to grave under Medicare. And that would solve the entire dilemma that is facing this great nation, this great country, because all other nations on the face of this earth have universal health care. They don't call it Medicare, but you got universal care. If you get sick or you get injured or you get wounded or afflicted, you can go to hospital, as they say over in England. You can go to a hospital and be cared for and receive the best treatment in the world, and you will not be charged. You won't get no bill, because everybody pays into the health care system in other countries. We are the only civilized nation on the face of God's good earth that refuses to give its citizens universal health care or Medicare for all, as we articulated now. If you remember when the Obama was in his first term and he was attempting to get the health care package passed, that he had even put in there that they would have a national health care package, nationalized. So if you didn't want to go under the insurance part of it, you could be covered under the national part of it. But somehow they managed to drop that national part of it. Wonder why. The first time universal health care was proposed was under Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and it was the doctors, the good doctors all across this country, who under the lobbying of the insurance industry fought against universal health care. And that's why we are, the United States is the piggy bank of the pharmaceutical and the medical profession. They make more money. We are, the United States of America is the margin of profit for Pfizer and for Moderna and Merck and all the other healthcare pharmaceutical, in other words, the pharmacologies. And we are their margin of profit, because they can charge what they want, because when you're sick, you got to pay, you got to come up with it. Even if you can't afford it, like you say, if you can't pay the rent, you got to get your pharmacy, get your prescription filled. And these type of things ought not to be. If I get hurt right now, I couldn't go to the doctor. I had to go to the emergency, because if I call the doctor, they're gonna say, "Well, now we're gonna get you an appointment, and here it is, July." And my appointment wouldn't be probably till the end of August. I'd be dead by that time. And so we have to revamp our entire healthcare system. It wasn't the best in the first place, and with all of the restrictions that are put upon us, it still is not the best. Let me read some more of Frederick Douglass's lament. All right, he says, "At a time like this, scathing irony, not convincing argument is needed. Oh, had I the ability, and could I reach the nation's ear, I today would pour out a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed, and its crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced." And before I go any further, let me read my scriptures that I read every week, but I have so far failed to read. Proverbs 14 and verse 34 says, "Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people." Micah 6 and 8 says, "He hath showed thee, O man, what is good, And what doth the Lord require of thee? But to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with thy God. Luke 12:1, final clause of that first verse, says, beware the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. And then to clinch it all up in the descriptor of Paul's letter to the Ephesian church, the 6th chapter of Ephesians, picking up the reading at verse number 11, Paul says, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And Frederick Douglass speech would be very apropos as a backdrop to principalities, powers, the rulers of the darkness of this world, spiritual wickedness in high places. This is the day when the Elon Musk can rejoice, when the Mr. Bezos can, and the Mark Zuckerbergs and all of that ilk can rejoice, because you know there are only 83 billionaires in this country. But these 83 billionaires are now ruling the United States of America. We never had a democracy. That was an aspiration. But now with these fellows in charge, democracy is dead. We don't have a practicing democracy, as of the fellows that rub their head against the schoolhouse wall tell us. We have an oligarchy and an autocracy. To quote Dr. Cornel West, I didn't know what oligarchy and autocracy was until I started hearing those fellas. But let me finish up. And what that means is the government is ruled by the rich. Okay. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings with all of your religious parade and solemnity are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of the United States at this very hour. Remember, this speech was given on July 5th, 1852. I said 1852, and here we are in 2025, and you could identify word for word that speech with our conditions right here in this same country, 2025, after the Civil War, after Jim Crow, after the Civil Rights Movement. We are further back now than we was in 1852. And we are in worse shape because at least they took care of the slaves. After the Civil War ended, and they started sharecropping, they didn't have to take care of the sharecropper. He had to take care of himself, put his own self in a house, and pay you for the house he was in. You sold him his clothing, and he had to work that clothing off by working in the field. That's how he never could get out of debt. And that's why we are slaves to this system, capitalistic system. We can't get out of debt. We can't get free. We can never breathe free air because of the 5 minutes. Well, I did get to that part. I wanted to get to another portion, and I think I shall. This part here, I'm going to wrap this up with this. He talking about the church. But the church of this country is not only indifferent to the wrongs of the slave, it actually sides with the oppressors. You know, it's bad when the church is on the side of the oppressor. It has made itself the bulwark of American slavery and the shield of American slave hunters. Many of its most eloquent divines, who stand as the very lights of the church, have shamelessly given the sanction of religion and the Bible to the whole slave system. They have taught that man may properly be a slave, that the relation of master and slave is ordained of God, that to send back an escaped bondman to his master is clearly the duty of all the followers of Jesus Christ. And this horrible blasphemy is palmed off upon the world for Christianity. And remember, slavery couldn't have existed one day if it hadn't been ordained and accepted and preached from the pulpits of our churches. Segregation couldn't have lasted as long as it did if it had not been preached from the pulpits of our churches. Segregation, separation, as Dr. King said, is not only immoral, it is unsocialized. All right? I'm going to close with this. For my part, Ferry Douglas talking, I would say welcome infidelity, welcome atheism, welcome anything in preference to the gospel as preached by those divines. They convert the very name of religion into an enigma of tyranny and barbarous cruelty, and serve to confirm more infidels in this age than all the infidel writings of Thomas Paine, Voltaire, and Bolingbroke put together have done. These ministers make religion a cold and flinty-hearted thing, having neither principles of right action nor bowels of compassion. They strip the love of God of its beauty and leave the throne of religion a huge, horrible, repulsive form. It is a religion for oppressors, tyrants, man-stealers, and thugs. It is not that pure and undefiled religion which is from above, and which is first pure, then peaceable, easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And so I wrap it up there, but you can see the parallels for yourself between 1852 then and 2025 now. And let me add in closing that religion has declined in all of Europe, and religion is declining here in the United States of America. More people are checking the box non-religious, not religiously involved, because of the fact of how we, so-called Christians, are doing in our churches. Church folk are carrying the slave water of the slave master, and they are holding up the policies of this administration, and it's not going to come out for our good, because people are looking and watching and seeing us, and they are making a judgment. Say, why should I go and join myself to that organization? And that's the way they feel about the people in Gaza. That's the way they feel about genocide. That's the way they feel about the homeless here in America, and the sick and the lame and the helpless here in America. No, we must regain our place. We must talk about Medicare for all, and we must begin to talk about it right now. I just gave me my song there. Let me close. If you're working on a job and they don't want to pay you, take my advice and don't work for them. Thank you, Doc. We out here. I love you. I'm praying with you.